The room went silent the way it does right before glass breaks. Music still thumped in the background, bass vibrating through the hardwood floor, but every face froze on her words. Wine glasses paused midair. Someone laughed too late, then stopped. My wife stood in front of me, cheeks flushed, eyes sharp with the confidence of an audience. "You're a worthless loser," she screamed, her voice cracking like a whip. "You always have been." I remembered the smell first. Red wine, perfume, burnt appetizers. I remember the heat crawling up my neck, the familiar tightening in my chest, the reflex to defend myself, to explain, to beg. Instead, I smiled. Not wide, not bitter, just enough to scare her. "You know what?" I said calmly. "You're right." That was the moment everything changed. I set my glass down carefully, as if it mattered, as if this was still a normal night. I grabbed my coat, nodded at her friends, people who had watched me shrink for years, and walked out of the party without another word. Behind me, laughter stumbled back to life, nervous, confused. They had no idea they'd just witnessed the opening scene of her downfall. I used to love her in quiet ways. The kind of love that remembers how someone takes their tea. The kind that listens more than it speaks. I loved her before the insults were public. Before the jokes sharpened, before her friends became an audience and I became a punchline. There was a time she reached for my hand in crowds. A time she defended me, or at least pretended to. But love erodes slowly. It doesn't collapse. It thins. It turns into habits. Then contempt. And contempt always gets sloppy. I think the first crack was when she started correcting me in front of people. Small things, dates, stories, my own memories rewritten with a laugh. Everyone laughed with her. I laughed, too, because that's what losers do when they're still pretending they belong. The second crack was the phone. She never left it face up anymore. The third was the way her friends looked at me, like they already knew something I didn't, or worse, like they knew I knew and was too weak to act. I told myself it was stress, work, marriage fatigue. I told myself loyalty meant endurance. I was wrong. Loyalty, I learned, is a currency, and she had been spending mine lavishly behind my back. Suspicion doesn't arrive with fireworks. It seeps in. She started coming home late with excuses that didn't quite land. Her laughter changed, lighter, freer, reserved for someone else. She picked fights with me for no reason, then accused me of being distant. Classic strategy, manufacture guilt. Keep the target off balance. At night, lying beside her, I felt like a guest in my own bed. Her back turned toward me, phone glowing faintly under the sheets. I didn't ask questions. I listened. Patterns form when you stop reacting. I noticed names she never mentioned. I noticed sudden weekend plans. I noticed how her friends went quiet when I entered rooms. The certainty arrived one evening when I borrowed her tablet to check a recipe. It was still logged in. Messages don't scream. They whisper. They assume privacy. That's what made them lethal. Inside jokes, complaints about me, screenshots of my texts mocked, plans discussed casually like errands. And then the photos, not explicit, worse, intimate, familiar. Her smile aimed at someone who wasn't me. I didn't cry. I felt something cleaner settle in. Something cold. That was the night I stopped being hurt and started being precise. I didn't confront her. That's what people do when they want emotional closure. I wanted leverage. I became observant, helpful, predictable, the perfect background character. I backed up files, screenshots, dates, locations. I learned the rhythm of her lies, the names she reused, the way she underestimated silence. I documented everything, not for revenge, for accuracy. Pain makes people sloppy. Strategy demands patience. I let her believe the party outburst had crushed me, that I had accepted my role, that I was small. She never noticed I'd stopped arguing, never noticed. I'd started sleeping better. While she performed her confidence, I built my exit. Financial accounts separated quietly. A lawyer consulted discreetly, documents copied, timelines mapped. I wasn't planning to destroy her. I was planning to remove her safety net. The plan didn't arrive fully formed. It assembled itself piece by piece. I knew confrontation would give her control, drama would give her sympathy. I needed exposure without hysteria, consequences without noise. So I invited her friends to dinner. A farewell, I said, a chance to clear the air. She loved the idea. She always did enjoy a stage. They arrived dressed to impress, already aligned with her version of events. I could see it in their eyes. Pity mixed with judgment. Dinner went smoothly. Laughter, wine, stories, then dessert. I connected my laptop to the TV. I just want to say something, I said, standing calmly. My hands didn't shake. About who I've been. She smiled smugly, ready to watch me self-immolate. Instead, I pressed play. Messages filled the screen. Dates, names, her words, her voice notes, her laughter, her contempt. The room shifted. No shouting, no theatrics, just the slow, horrifying realization settling in around the table. She stood up, shouting my name, demanding I stop. I didn't look at her. I looked at her friends. I agreed with her, I said evenly. I was a loser because I stayed. Silence swallowed the room. I closed the laptop, picked up my coat, and walked out again. This time, the silence followed me. I wasn't there when the fallout hit. I heard about it later. How one friend cried. How another apologized. How someone finally said, "We thought you knew." How my wife sat there exposed, scrambling for explanations that didn't land without me to absorb the blame. They told her the truth after I left, that I'd been the decent one, the quiet one, the one she'd mistaken for weak. They told her she'd gone too far. That night, she called me 23 times. I didn't answer. The aftermath was clean. Divorce paperwork, asset division, no screaming matches, no begging. She tried to rewrite the story, but the evidence had already spoken. People don't forget being complicit. Her friends distanced themselves. Invitations stopped coming. The spotlight moved on. As for me, I moved into a smaller place with bigger windows. I slept without tension for the first time in years. I spoke less, thought more. Revenge isn't about cruelty. It's about clarity. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw punches. I didn't beg to be respected. I simply stopped protecting her from who she really was, and that was enough. Betrayal teaches you something simple and brutal. Control doesn't come from dominance. It comes from restraint. She screamed that I was a loser in front of her friends. She was right. I lost the version of myself that tolerated betrayal and I won everything.